We've got somebody calling in now. We've got a phone call.
Hello.
Yes, hello. Please go ahead. Ask your question very quickly.
Yes, good morning. What I want to say is more of a contribution. It is sad that in Nigeria, the people at the end of affairs, they come up with all sorts of policies and they try to drive it down the throat of Nigerians. Democracy is supposed to be a government of the people, for the people, by the people. If people say they don't want this 5,000 naira note at this point, renowned economists have come out and said the same thing. Because when you introduce higher denomination and then you turn these other denominations like 20 naira, 50 naira into coins, they will become non-existent, which means nothing will cost that amount anymore. And that is the issue. We are not saying, and who is this 5,000 naira made for? Is it for the ordinary man on the street? It is definitely made for the elite, for the bourgeois. And that's the reason why I think they're trying to push this down the throat of Nigerians. You know, that's my contribution. I think we don't need 5,000 naira now. The same reasons they're giving now was the same reasons they gave when the 1,000 naira was being introduced. 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the line, they will say they want to introduce 10,000 naira again with the same reason. Fix the economy, then you won't need huge denominations.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Exactly the point that I was going to raise about the fact, actually a little bit different actually. What I was thinking is along the lines of it's going to cost us how many billions of naira to print and restructure the notes, the currencies. How much is it going to cost us, and why do we have to spend that much right now and not 2 years or 5 years down the line?
Very intelligent questions, and particularly from our friend who also phoned in. Let me start from yours. The Project Cure, this restructuring exercise, is actually designed to make us to spend less. When I hear people say this in the public domain, isn't it a waste of money? I laugh. One of the reasons why currencies are restructured every 5 to 8 years in other climes is to take advantage of technology and to be one step ahead of counterfeiters who also conduct research now and then on how they can attack your currency. In this review that we're doing now, first is to note that Nigerian currency does not last beyond 6 months because of the velocity of use. So whether we...
Not the quality of the paper.
No, not the quality of the paper.
Okay. Because
of the rate at which we use it. So whether we come up with this policy or not, year on year, we will continue to print. So if I don't change 1,000, if I don't change 500, if I don't change any of the currencies, I will have to replace these currencies anyway. And I'm simply saying that this exercise is to permit me to be able to do it much less, so I can save money for Nigerians. That is to answer your question. But there was something interesting that she raised, and that is that if you come up with this and then you bring in coins, then price expectation will rise and so on. Of course, this is a very good concern. I actually appreciate those concerns, which is why we said Nigerians rejected the existing coins not because they hate coins. It is because those coins could not fetch anything. We all travel, wherever we travel to and we see coins and they fetch anything, we keep them. You tend to keep coins if they can fetch something. But this time around, we're having coins in higher denomination. But we are leaving the decision to Nigerians. We are not withdrawing 5 naira notes. We are not withdrawing 10 naira notes. We are not withdrawing 20 naira notes. They will still circulate side by side with the limited higher denomination coins that we will have. And we leave the decision to Nigerians. If we get to know that they still will prefer to use those lower denomination notes over time, then we will have them to continue to use it. Even though lower denomination notes wear out even faster. 3 to 4 months, they are gone. If I introduce a coin equivalent, it lasts 25 solid years. So it's the decision of Nigerians. If they want us to continue to waste money to have those notes that will disappear in 3 4 months, we are saying that so be it. We will continue to have the masses of this country make use of the lower denomination notes if that is their decision. But again, I had it said again by the person who phoned in that we are forcing, that this is a way by which things are forced on Nigeria. I don't think it's right for people to come out and talk on behalf of 160 million people. It's your decision. If you don't want to touch 5,000 naira note, you don't have to. But it doesn't mean that nobody will use it. Of course, we will come out with limited quantity. If you come out with very limited quantity and nobody is using it, then we withdraw it. But I can assure you people will use it because we know those who clamored for it. And then to say this is for bourgeoisie, and Nigeria belongs to the rich and the poor. I will not be here and say Nigeria belongs to the rich alone. Just as I will also not be here to say that Nigeria belongs to the poor alone. Whether you are rich or poor, you should be able to conduct your business in a manner that suits your lifestyle.
Okay, now to the polymer notes, the 10, 20, and 50 naira notes. At the time that they were introduced, we were told that they were going to last forever. The qualities of these notes were screamed to the high heavens. But we have found that really they're not really good quality. Within a few months, they fade. It's like they're washed out. So, are those denominations going to be in polymer again?
Thank you. You and I are on the same page there. When polymer idea came, it became a worldwide phenomenon. Everybody in the world was going after polymer some 5-6 years ago. And we went into it because, again, we're a petroleum exporting country. We think we can integrate backward and even be producing substrate. Unfortunately, we realize that, yes, the substrate lasts longer, but the ink fades, like you said. So this new generation of nodes is going to be all in paper.
Okay.
We are disrobing polymer completely.
Okay. All right. Now let's talk about you. You used to be the managing director of Wema Bank. So you were a practitioner in the industry. Now you have crossed over to the regulator. How was that transition for you? From one being regulated to now being the regulator yourself?
A very interesting transition because sometimes, you see, it's like you are in a car, you are a bus conductor. It is not all the time you agree with the driver. When you get to the driver's seat, you then begin to understand some of the things that the driver will say, which you were criticizing. As the operator, my mandate then was to maximize the share, the value of the business for the shareholders and to provide service. So it was micro in view. But of course, when I became a regulator, I began to understand better some of the things that the regulator will say don't do. And so for me, it's very fulfilling, much more than the perquisites or whatever. The fact that I could then begin to see the economy from a vantage position, like an helicopter view of Lagos State. Unlike when you were in the local community before, you could see just the world around you. I think it's very interesting. The transition is good because, of course, when you are a regulator who was once an operator, you will then understand the minds of the operator. You know where the bodies are buried. You understand the tricks and all of that. And I think you will be a better regulator.
Okay, that's interesting perspective. A number of questions are coming through from our friends on Twitter, our followers on Twitter. We've got one from Raji Hakim who says that why can't we redenominate our currencies like the way Ghana did instead of printing larger notes and coining?
Nigerians, I laugh. Today, Osana, tomorrow, crucify him. I recall I was in Central Bank of Nigeria when we came up with redenomination. And the sentiment was, why is Central Bank having brainwave? What is happening? We have since crossed that Rubicon because, we were not allowed to redenominate. And today, we put that behind us. And we felt that this is also an exercise that is good for the common good. And I know we're being criticized today, but with hindsight, tomorrow, just as everybody has suddenly become an apostle of cashless. This time last year, I was here, and we were called names. But central banking is not doing what is popular. It's to keep your eye on the ball and do what is good all the time, hoping that one day people will understand what you're doing.
Okay, another question, very quickly. He says, please ask Mr. Lemo that why are the banks giving us started notes whenever we want to withdraw money? Is there a regulation that says the banks should give new notes or should not give new notes? They should use one note that's almost torn to pieces.
Again, that is the core of why we're coming up with note restructuring. You recall, I always talk about Nigerian notes being tattered because of high velocity and so on and so forth. If you use an instrument that is supposed to be coined and you continue to exchange it in paper, it will be tattered in less than no time. And then, of course, it is central bank that again will be called to be responsible for that. The problem is that, I mean, we tell banks, anytime any note is unfit, ship them back to central bank. We will destroy and we will replace. We have clean note policy. Our apologies about that. We're working with banks. But again, that's why we're telling Nigerians to give us this chance. Let us restructure our notes. We'll come up with better substrate, well varnished, to ensure that they last longer. And it's again why we have to be allowed to carry out this exercise so we can begin to see better denominations.
One last question. Someone says that how much exactly, because the numbers have been bandied around, how much exactly are we spending on this? There's been 46 billion, 56 billion, 36
Freedom
billion.
of information.
How much are we spending on this project?
I will not be here to keep any information away from you, but if anybody in CBN tells you he knows it, it is not true. And I will explain to you.
Okay.
We know as a fact that in 2009, we spent about 47 billion to print notes and currency, and it's been falling since then. It was just 32 billion last year. And so it is not true that we plan to spend 40 billion to print 5,000 naira notes. We will not know the details because it is when we begin to sit down with the note producers and then we ask them to maybe send in their bid, and then we negotiate with the highest bidder and so on and so forth. That is when we'll be able to put our finger on the number. 2, we don't even yet know the indent for next year because all of this exercise will be carried out next year. I don't know the value of the notes that we're going to print. It's a result of a very thorough research effort that will come up with the volume, and then having discussed the pricing, we will then multiply. But one thing I can assure Nigerians about is this exercise is actually to help us save money. So all the figures I banded before will likely go down as a result of this exercise. But when the information comes out, the public will get to know. If you open our annual report, you will see all of what we're spending on printing of notes. It's in the public domain. We don't keep any information.
You said 2009 you spent...
2009, if you permit me to go through this, I can give you the actual figure. 2009, we spent 47.1 billion printing notes. It fell to 45.5 billion in 2010. In 2011, it fell to 32.6 billion. And we're saying that if, with this restructuring, the likelihood is there that it will continue to fall.
Okay. All right. Final word just before you go. What will be your final message to a number of Nigerians who are up in arms against the idea of 5,000 naira note and cashless Lagos?
It's to tell Nigerians that we love them. I see Nigerians like children collecting polio vaccine. They all cry when they collect it, but it's for their good. And but our responsibility is to ensure that we continue to educate Nigerians. Yeah. This is all about saving money for Nigerians. This is all about making life easy for Nigerians. This is all about making Nigeria a better destination for investment. This is all about ensuring that we take advantage of technology so that our lifestyle will be better. You don't have to touch 5,000 naira note if you don't need it. We will not force any note on anybody.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a great pleasure having you here. You've thrown some light on some of the issues that some of us just could not understand why it's been happening. We've been speaking with Mr. Tunde Lemo, who's the Deputy Governor Operations in Central Bank of Nigeria. Thank you very much for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Well, we will continue in just a moment, so please don't go away. If you do, just grab a cup of tea and join us in a moment.